Hello and welcome to Love and the Planets. And today we're going to talk about the new moon in Scorpio. And I'm Margaret Gray, still in Dublin.
And I'm still, and I'm Armand Diaz, still on Long Island.
Well, I'm saying that, Armand, because we've got a lot of events coming up in 2019, aside from, of course, our wonderful one-year certificate course, which is starting in January online. But back to our new moon in Scorpio. This is a pretty intense new moon, isn't it? I mean, it's not your average kind of, let's just, get ready for something new. This is, go for it, Armand.
Yeah, it's not average. Well, the Scorpio new moon is never quite an average new moon anyway, because Scorpio is so much the sign of regeneration, of shedding the past and moving into the future. And the new moon is kind of a kernel. When we think about it in terms of love and relationship, we sometimes think about, okay, what isn't working? What is going to work for us? Where do we want to go? Where's our heart? Where's our passion? Might be the way to put it. Where's our passion? And yet here we are with this new moon surrounded by the nodes changing sign. Uranus going back into Aries and Jupiter jumping into Sagittarius this week. It's not a quiet new moon. It's a very agitated new moon. And I think when there's a lot of stuff happening around the new moon, you often have a diminished sense of control.
Yes, and that's never great news for relationships, is it? Because, we kind of feel we don't like feeling vulnerable. And I think a new moon in Scorpio, there is a lot of vulnerability around, but Scorpio tends to hide its vulnerability. And sometimes when Scorpio feels vulnerable, when there's this vulnerability, energy of vulnerability around, what happens in relationships is that we hide it and we can either snipe at each other or withdraw completely. But sometimes communication can be difficult. So very important really to keep in mind that we've got a lovely Mercury in Sagittarius that can help us communicate and to really use that. So if we need time alone, if we want time alone, to just remember to mention that to the people around us, because otherwise they might think it's something to do with them. But it's worth saying, I'm just, my feelings are up, even without having to go into feelings, because with Scorpio energy around, it might not be so easy to articulate what's going on.
It might be very hard to talk about what's going on this week. I'm not entirely sure that we know what's going on. Don't forget Venus. Venus is still retrograde. I mean, it's about 6 weeks of, we're us saying the same thing, but it's true. Venus is still retrograde. So when it comes to our sense of where we are with relationship, we probably don't know. But with all this agitation, we feel that, there's something, we got to do something. It's not a sit quiet type of time. I think that it is a time that we really could do a lot on the inner plane and not really do much outside. I think that, if you're in a relationship, it might be a good idea, as you're saying, maybe get a little bit of space for yourself. And those looking for a relationship, it's not, something great happens, go for it, I guess. But it's not necessarily a time that is really favoring that sort of movement, and it can seem, with these big planetary changes, I think it can seem like something ought to be happening. There's almost that compulsion to have something happen, and maybe nothing.
Yes, I think I agree with you. I think it's much more a time of introspection. So it's a great time to, again, revisit, use the Venus retrograde and use those scorpionic energy to revisit and also that maybe things from the unconscious may come up. So notice dreams, notice, memories that may come up. Notice also synchronicities, suddenly a photograph appearing on your, on your Facebook page or on your computer or something. Notice all of that because it could be very powerful, particularly with the aspect to Pluto. Let's not forget that there's also, an aspect to Pluto in all of this. So There is a little bit of digging around structures. So issues to do with structures in relationships may come up, to do with commitment, and also the aspect to Neptune. So there's also a part of us that our dreams, our dreams of meeting the one, our dreams of being with our soulmate, our dreams of, absolute unconditional love. A lot of those themes may come up, particularly if, of course, you have planets, your sun, your moon, your ascendant, your descendant at Scorpio or Taurus. Those are particularly important points, as well as Capricorn and Pisces.
I think you're absolutely right. And I want to just come back and emphasize that point about synchronicities, because yes, with this new moon in aspect to Pluto and Neptune, and a very nice aspect to Neptune, dreams and that type of thing could be very, very significant. And boy, you're just all of a sudden somebody pops up on your Facebook page that you've been thinking about, that type of thing. Yeah, definitely. We could be getting information from other places. So pay attention to those things.
It really feels a time where we're looking at real love. We're not likely to, when you were saying it's not a great time for going out and so on, I don't think it's a time for light dating. So I think if there's somebody in your life who's very special, where the love is deep, it may actually deepen at this point, because we want a love that's very real. And as you said at the beginning, very passionate as well. So we're not likely to settle for anything else in our intimate relationships. And this does feel like a new moon that is more about intimate relationships than it is about friendships in this situation.
Oh, I think entirely so. I think it is about intimate relationships. And again, with Venus retrograde, externalizing this is going to be a little bit tough. You may have to wait a little bit on that, but I think that it is about intimate relationships. And I agree 100%. There's no settling. This is a determined energy. It may be dreamy and synchronistic with the Neptunian stuff. The information may come in dreams, but once you feel it, it's there, and that's what it is.
So I guess what we can say is really tune into your heart tomorrow with this new moon and see what comes up.
And then tune into Loving the Planets for the full moon in a couple of weeks.
Yes, and into our recording, of course, not to forget that we did the recording for the whole month of November. If you haven't listened to that, do go onto our Facebook page and check that out. It has the whole month for all the signs.
That's a good one.
See you soon, Armand. Bye-bye.